Okay, so I'm gonna try and do this in one shot and see how it goes. I'm gonna try and put uh, timestamps in the description for you if you come back to this and check it out at any point. But anyways, starting here is this is Unity, and here's our scene. You notice this is not the scene that we're gonna be working in. So what we're gonna do is go to your scene, which you'll find down here in the assets section, um, called Terran's World. We're going to open that up, and it might take a second for it to pop into existence here. And so this is our new generated city that we have with our new beacon tower and all the terrain and streets laid out as needed. The one thing that's important is that we're going to have to make the streets populated. So I brought over most of the stuff from my previous city. So you'll see there's already cars down here. Um, but what you're going to have to do is shuffle these cars around a little bit. And I have them grouped by direction. So this is the first cars one. And you can see it shows all the cars in on these, I guess, east to west streets. And you're able to click on it and move all of them as a grouping. But more importantly is that what you're going to want to do is shuffle this up so it's different from what I've given you. So you can shuffle the cars by going to them. So to fly in Unity and fly, you right click during the scene. So this is the scene tab. You right click and you're able to look around. And then it's simple WASD movement from that, and you're flying. And you can hold shift to go faster. So it looks like the light poles generated improperly. So we're going to go ahead and fix that real quick so this can be helpful. So we're going to click on this light pole, and it pops up over here in the hierarchy. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. So pops up this hierarchy and it shows um, all the street lamps, but in this grouping, but not all of them, because you can see this one is not highlighted with the others. So if you click all street details, and I do not believe, and this includes bus stops. So yeah, it does not include bus stops because it's not highlighted. So we can just delete these by hitting delete key, or we can take this position right here, and you're able to drag it, and it'll change all the position of everything at once. You can do the same thing by seeing these arrows right here. You're able to grab up and down, or you can do the left and right ones, or the Z direction. And if you want to move in two directions at once, you click this face plane right here, and it will stay. This face plane will be the same distance away from you, but you're able to move it up and down and left and right. And there's different planes all over it. So there's one in that direction, there's actually one in the bottom. Anyway, but really what we want to do is lower them all. So I'm going to take this, drag this down, try get some more size movement. So it looks like actually -4 is perfect. So just messed up by an exact amount. Another quick thing that we just popped up. So you see how this is the camera's clipping here right a little bit. It just gets really annoying, and whenever you're trying to work on stuff that's small, like this traffic cone, for example, it clips and goes away. A way to fix this issue is to hit F while you click on something. So see this highlight it's clicked on, and you click F, and then it focuses the camera on this specific object, and sets all the um, camera properties in order to most effectively work on this object. And this can come into really handy if trying to find objects. So here we are. You'll see this traffic cone was actually in the props section. So this is what I've dragged in here and scattered about. So let's say we want to find this chain link fence. It's way over there, so you can either fly to it or you can hit F and it teleports you right there to that chain link fence. So, but getting on to what you're going to be needing to do, which is adding assets to the city. So here is a mostly blank street. And let's say we want to add an asset right here. So down here, I have some free assets that I imported, and over here some new assets that we purchased. So let's go in here, and you're just going to get used to like sifting through all these files to find something that you want. So let's go to like road props and prefabs. Prefabs are already made models that you can just drag in. So what I mean by drag in, let's say we want this board, you click and hold and you drag it in. And now there's a few ways to put this in a direction that you want. So like I said, you can drag it around as you need. You can rotate it by doing the same thing up here. And you notice my cursor, when it goes off screen, it swaps back over here, just so you can keep dragging and keep making it spin. Or you can just type in 180, it flips around. Another option that you have is that up here in the toolbar, you can have, instead of this dragging tool, you can have a rotate tool. And this rotate tool has those, I guess, axis indicators that you can click on to only rotate in a certain direction. Or you can click anywhere on it and rotate it around that sphere point, and it'll go in all directions. Mostly you're going to be just typing in 80 or 180 or 90 or negative 90, and it'll all end up working out. So it goes to 360, we'll flip it back around. 180 is there, and if you imagine negative 180 is the same spot. Now, another thing is the scale. So some of these will come in horrendously scaled. So let's get a good example of that. And they're usually free assets that do this the worst. So let's grab, I believe the pistol was the worst. No, the bombs were the worst, actually. So that's going to be easier to see. And meshes, because they named it that way. And we're going to go with plastic explosives. So we're going to drag this in. And now we have this huge plastic explosive that takes up a whole city block. So a good way to narrow this down is just scale it by 10, or minimize it by 10 by doing the 0.1. And if that doesn't, that seems way too big still, so we can just add another 0. So I'm going to copy that, paste it. And still too big, so it's just pretty much just guessing and checking until you get a size that you want. So you see that is too big, and we will go up by 5 to double the size, and we'll say that's probably gonna be too big, so let's go in between that. So 2.5 and 2.5, 2.5. That looks, it looks close enough. And then you can drag it and place it wherever you need it. and you'll actually notice that there's a curve right here. So be careful whenever you drag something around. Make sure it is set to the proper height. It's okay for it to be clipping a little bit, but excessive clipping is going to look bad. So I always like to make it clip a little bit because then it'll be for sure touching the ground. Because the thing that's worse than clipping is actually it floating. So try and get as close as you can, and if you clip it a little bit, that's alright, because that means it's touching the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these real quick by clicking the delete key. And see what else. Oh, so if we wanted to move multiple things at once, so you see how I grouped all. Already grouped all these cars right here, but let's say we want to do just this car and that car. Well, if you hold down Control while you have one highlighted, hold down Control and click this other one. Now it highlights both of them, and both of these can now move. So let's say we want to shift both these over by one lane. We'll shift that guy over by one lane. And then he'll also in fact be over by the one lane. Looks like he's a little on the line, so we can move him over a little bit. So he's more in line. He's probably, yep, still in the lines. Perfect. So you can do that. And the same thing works with scaling, so you can scale them both at the same time. But let's say you're working over here in the hierarchy. And so you can do the same thing and control click. Let's see, which one were you? So you can click on that one and control click to select and deselect certain objects. So if you were to, I guess, accidentally click on another car, or I guess a paint can in a car, and you want to actually only control that car, to deselect the paint can, you control click the same thing um, you control click the same highlighted object. There we go. But again, if you're working in the hierarchy and you want to select, let's see, where does this guy live? So everything in this row of cars, see how they're kind of thrown in together right there. So if you shift and click, it will select all the cars between those 2 points in the hierarchy, and then you can control all of them that are highlighted. So that's really helpful to do if you're trying to modify groups of objects that have already been done for you, such as these groupings I've made. Now, I haven't grouped these by streets, is just direction. So you're going to have to probably go in and find both the cars and all the cars in between, and if you want to edit that street specifically, do that. Or you can just delete all the cars and add more in. So let's go ahead and go over to there you go. So here's our speed bump, and let's say here's another speed bump. Let's say we want to group these two together. The best way to do this is to right click anywhere in the hierarchy, and you can create empty, which is, as you guess, an empty game object. It's just a placeholder. And let's rename that to speed bumps. And then click on that speed bump, click on that speed bump, and they should be highlighted in the hierarchy. So there's 1, and there's 2. So since we have control of both of them, we can click and drag, and we'll go all the way down to our newly created empty game object, speed bumps, and drop them in there. And so now this parent object now controls both of these speed bumps. Unfortunately, parent object is way over here, but that's fine. And so you can control both of them. You can turn them both on and off. And more importantly, you can duplicate them. So there we go. So to duplicate, you can right click and click on duplicate. So now we have more speed bumps. Or you can click Control D to duplicate it as well. So Control D is going to be really helpful because if you want to just click on something in the scene and Control D, you don't have to look or deal with anything over here. You just clicked on the taxi on duplicate, and then you hit Control D, and you can drag out another taxi. Maybe Control D again, drag it out, Control D again, and drag it out again. So you can Control Z all that, undo it. So that is one really helpful way to getting this done efficiently. Let's see, is there anything else I need to cover? Oh, make sure to save often to know if you have unchanged work. This little asterisk sign shows up at the very top, and just file and save. And Control S does the same thing. This saves the scene, which is your Terran's world, which is found down here. And that's just a reference to where all the objects and everything lives in this scene. So you're able to do as much as you want in here, and it won't affect anything else in the project. If you want to make a separate scene and I guess do whatever you want without any consequences and have backup, you can click Save As. Let me call it Backup. So it's taking a second. And so now we have both Terran Scene and Backup, which is right here. And so now you're able to do whatever you want in here without any consequences, you know. And then if it doesn't, you know, end up breaking something, or you feel like, okay, that's really ugly, I want to go back, you can always just boot up your old world and you'll be just fine. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Boot up the old world, and we're not going to save the backup. Actually delete it. We don't need it. So here we are back here again. There are 2 assets, importantly, that you're going to have to do some special things with. And those will be the 2 large assets. There's going to be a playset and a park. They're both over here. I dragged them up into the air, so it's very hard to miss it. And so, go ahead and use the park. And I'm going to drag it way over here. And that looks like a good spot for it. And so you can click on this singular building, delete it, drag this playground right here. And the opening for this playground is in the wrong spot, so we're going to rotate it. And it looks like 0 is going to work out just well. Slide that guy right back in here. Lower it. I think 4 was the magic number for that light pole, so type that in. Sweep that guy out a little. And there we go. And now we have a really good landmark in the city. Feel free to put this playground in multiple places because it's a really good prop and it's gonna give a lot of detail to the city. So you can do the exact same thing to this park, which is much larger. And I've already done some freehand editing, as you can see right here, to make sure none of it is actually seen, so none of it able to be seen underneath it. That makes sense? Because this grass model is actually one-sided. But you can, duplicate these stone blocks and drag them around. Because you can see, actually right there, that's a little uncovered, so I'll just duplicate that stone wall and drag it up a bit. And then, there you go. Almost good as new. And then one issue with this park is, again, this grass terrain. The reason it's a pain is that the terrain itself does not like to rotate properly. So, as we rotated the playground, we can't do the same thing with this one because of the terrain itself being unfortunately locked in that same position. And that's just a property of terrains that's unfortunate. So this park will always be facing in this direction, which is fine. You can work around that by only putting it onto a street corner like that one. That one works. Or this one, or even in the middle will work just fine. And I think that is most of it that gets covered here, so I can go ahead and save it. I'm going to zip up this file and send it over to you. I am using Unity 2019.4.16 F1. Let's see. Unity installation. Actually, you can just find this on Unity Hub. So when you install Unity Hub, you can go to installs, you can add a new one, you can add this specific one. All right. Well, I think that covers it. If you have any questions, just send me a message on Slack or anything else. A quick Google search will probably also solve your problems. A lot of Unity is documented. And yeah, just try and smash together some assets to make something unique and interesting on each street. Where could I have an example? It's like these cinder blocks. All these cinder blocks are individual assets, and I just put them all together and flip them around and to make an interesting sort of landmark. And that way you're able to make a different one by just rearranging these and rotating them. So try and stretch as many assets as far as you can. If you find out that you're running out of creative ideas to make unique looking areas, feel free just to find it on the asset store. You can find anything that's free. So what would be a fun one? Let's do just boxes. type in box. And click on free assets. And then you can just take any of these, download it, clicking on it, download, import, click import again. So this might take a second depending how large the asset is. And then it'll update in the assets folder. I think it's freestyles. That sounds, no, that's the other one I downloaded. Um, Postbox. So now we have this new asset that we can now click on Prefabs and drag it on in. And there you go. It's your new Postbox. Do the same thing if you have any, if you find any Unity assets that you'd like to get that are paid assets. Probably go ahead and just add them to the cart, and we can talk to Sarah and purchase them relatively soon. So I think that really covers it all. I know this is kind of long, but I'll put timestamps on it, and it's a lot of it's pretty intuitive. So I'm sure you can figure it out. All right, I'll see you later.